hotel. I have read on the bulletin board that a hospital for the insane will be organized in Buffalo or at Fort Porter. They need attendance there and do not wish to force anyone into this work. Men are asked to volunteer for it. I am very much interested in this, and only regret that Beardsley will not come along. My transfer is arranged, and I leave in a few days. The train from Oswego reached Buffalo at 6 in the morning, and I took a streetcar that was filled with very strong-smelling Italian working men out of Fort Porter. The fort is not a fort as one might imagine, such, for example, as Fort Ontario. It has no moat, ramparts, battlements, or any military appearance at all. It is about half an hour's slow streetcar ride outside of the city of Buffalo, and is a collection of army buildings, red and grayish blue. A long house is the most prominent, in which are two long mess halls and kitchens. A smaller group, the non-commissioned officers' houses, is on the most windy corner of the large ground and faces toward the river, along with an outlook toward the lake. On the corner between these two stands a square building, the post hospital. Working men are busy making the houses over into an emergency insane asylum. The windows are heavily barred, the floors are covered with a slippery kind of substance. One large room in the basement of a bigger house is made ready to give treatments in bathtubs that have a continuous in and out flow of water that is kept at certain temperatures. With these bathtubs go some kind of canvas covers to tie patients down on, and in this is the first note of mischief or cruelty. There is another room down there, a long one with a needle shower at the end that looks like a parrot cage with all the horizontal wires taken off. Away from it, at the other end, is a small marble table. On it, a hose which throws a strong current of almost solid water, so tightly compressed is it. It can be shot at the other end into the cage as if from a garden hose. There is cement mixing, carpentering, and hammering all over the place, and people stand around, as on all places where something is being built, and watch and give advice. So far, except for the bathing establishment, it is no more exciting than the building of any kind of house. I took a day off and went to look at Niagara Falls. It is perhaps because I took a streetcar out there that I felt they were about half as big as I thought they would be. The thrilling spot is where the water turns down, and I made a shade of my hands and looked only on that, shutting out all the scenery. That was a powerful sensation. I am sorry that the falls are surrounded by what Beardsley calls beautiful dreck. Very interesting was a story that the conductor of the streetcar that took me back told me about the falls. A tug belonging to the Shredded Wheat Company, which makes a breakfast food that has a factory nearby, broke its rudder and drifted toward the falls helpless. A little away from where the water falls down, the tug got stuck on a rock. The police and the fire department of Buffalo raced out to help them. This took a long time, and the men on the tug looking down could see and hear how the tug slowly moved inch by inch, scraping over the rock, either to be more firmly grounded or else to go over and down. The police came in the dark, and they tried to shoot safety lines to the tug, but could not reach it. A heavy fog sat on the waters, and not until the sun rose were they able to shoot the lines over to the tug. When they managed to get the men off, all of their hair had turned white from horror on this terrible night. More soldiers are arriving. They know nothing of the insane hospital, and also nothing of insanity. Today, a new group of men have come to us. Nurses, attendants, and doctors, and many more soldiers, also a Catholic chaplain, with a studious, earnest face. He is very young. Many of the men are male nurses from the state hospitals for the insane. I observe them carefully. They are all strong, but I expected some sign of their profession on them. Just what, I do not know. This is, however, not apparent in them. They seem ordinary, normal, healthy people, and talk of what anybody else talks of. One of them, who seemed the most important of the group, is a tall Irishman with a shock of flaming red electric hair that stands in a bush sideways as if the wind were tilting it, or like the comb of a rooster on one side of his head. He has freckles, even on his fingernails, and a way of holding his head as if he were looking over a mass of people and listening into distance, up and on one side, to the side where his hair points. He is immaculate. His arms and legs are like oak timbers, so strong they have a curve in them. There is also red hair on his hands. He holds them open at his side. He talks little, eats very fast, walks around the hospital all day, and speaks a strong dialect, which of course must be Irish. It is an English with which he takes more air than normally needed to say anything, and while it is loud, he seems to talk in instead of out with his breathing. I like him. We have had several lessons in anatomy. For this purpose, skeletons have been shown. Stereopticon pictures of the inside of the body. I attend these lectures with great interest and make drawings of all I see and read. Therefore, I soon know the names of all the bones, the most important muscles, and understand the body's construction, its contents, the position of the organs. And when I see people walk or stand up after such a lesson, the solemn wonder of ourselves fills me with a deep respect. I feel that when I see children run, there is much happiness in understanding a small part of this organism. The doctor who gives these lessons is addressing himself almost completely to me alone, as the others are not very excited about it. The insane asylum is finished, and the Irishman is really in charge. There are lady nurses, regular army nurses of a dreadful caliber, women who look like what we refer to in Germany as Canaille. They are gross, and not women at all, particularly not in walk and voice. Among the instructions we are given is this: never to leave the nurses unprotected or alone in a ward with patients. This seems like one of Beardsley's funny ideas. I am sure they could protect themselves and that no man would do them harm. I have never seen such formidable women with shoes like they wear and legs like our barefooted peasants. There are more lessons, and they are getting closer to the work. Always lock the door behind yourself when entering or leaving a ward. The most important rule is never, never to bring arms, knives, scissors, razor blades, razors, or any other instrument that might be a weapon into the wards. The patients are to be fed with spoons only. The first patients arrived today. It was late at night, but many people waited outside on the street for the long train of ambulances and cars that came up from the railroad stations, with the patients and the guards that have been their attendants. These men, the ill ones, seem stupefied and tired. Some are in straitjackets and have a guard each. They are all taken to the basement where the baths are. I am told that they have been transported from Brest, and except for this evening, have not been out of their clothing. I do not know whether this is true. It seems possible. Their clothes are filthy. They have beards. Also, there is a sickening stench about them, and their underclothing is foul. They are bathed and then assigned to wards. The doctors do this. The Red Irishman is in the middle of all this. To every ward there is assigned a regular state asylum trained attendant and a novice soldier. The patients get milk, pajamas, and bathrobes, and slippers that give them no foothold on the polished floor, while we have strong shoes with rubber so we can stand our ground when anything happens. There are rows of solitary cells with which the Irishman calls the tough customers in them. They have what we believe to be mad faces, as bad as those the actors, mediocre ones, make when they are in horror plays. From that row comes howling. Some of these men have besides the mental sickness other vile diseases. It would be best to kill them, says the Irishman. That seems the kindest thing to do. The night they arrived seemed very crisp with danger and excitement, but nothing happened. They sat on their beds and seemed no different from any other patient. Some of them wept and mumbled to themselves. It is a cruel thing to think, but I was disappointed, as were also all the other new men. We thought they might do some funny things, but the Irishman says to wait. They will, and too much of it in a little while. He has a definite rough and authoritative way with them. They are absolutely in his charge. He lets them know that by word and gesture and the tone of his voice, his personality seems to have developed out of doing this for years. It is in the way he stands and walks, also in the look in his eyes. They are water blue and penetrate and are very strong. The patients have been here for a while now. I have learned to know their faces, and many things have happened. They are not funny, but sadder than anything I could be, but sadder than anything I thought could be, and never in the least to laugh at. They are heavy, disturbing cases, mostly locked into their inner selves, their condition to be seen only in their eyes, and also when they stand at a barred window and look out into the trees and the street with free people walking up and down and trying to look in. They pace, and something of their unhappiness and condition jumps over to me. The Irishman says one must never feel sorry for them or understand or attempt to understand them and not talk to them, but the transfer of their misery makes me limp and terribly tired. The patients have small duties to perform: make beds, sweep dust, wash windows on the inside. The men in this ward suffer from an illness which makes them periodically dangerous. It can be felt coming on. The unrest and disturbance in their minds gets out of all bonds and beyond their power to control it. They get irritable all at once and refuse to obey, grumble at any instruction given them. Then they have to be watched, and all at once, without warning, their control breaks. They jump and attack. In rare cases, other patients are the object, but mostly the ward master. They seem to go for the men from the back. And since they are soldiers and can fight, it is a great deal of work to overcome them. They are terribly strong once they have a hold. And in this state they cannot feel pain. At the least sign of fighting, the ward masters from the other wards come in and help. As many as 6 men fall on one patient. They choke him and hold him down until the man is blue in the face. And we will pause there.